Right, so I found a rather echoey little spot to sit and chat with Jo Posey. Hi, Jo.
Hello, Kira.
Hello.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming to chat to me for our very first episode of the show. I'm really interested in what you're doing at the moment. So can you give me just a quick outline of what your role is, what your job is, and what you do?
I am a nutritionist, and most of my role at the moment seems to be talking about menopause. That job has become an awful lot easier post Davina.
Yeah.
She seemed to make it acceptable to talk about menopause. Prior to that, people were starting to get interested, but it was still a conversation that would attract titters,
Right.
I suppose, or I would talk with corporates, and that's probably what I'm doing with 50% of my time at the moment, is working with various bodies in their lunch and learn sessions and educating around how they can support their employees and what everyone needs to know, because an awful lot of women arrive at midlife not having a clue what to expect because there hasn't been the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that we, like, it's great that Davina did that show, isn't it? Because people started talking more, but you'd think we're talking about something that affects like 1 in 100 people.
It's insane.
We don't talk about it much, and it's certainly not a fashionable discussion. It's interesting that you're doing a lot of work in the corporate world, because I was looking at the financial impact of menopause and what it has on the community around us, and I was looking at like how, you know, 1 in 5 women leave the workplace early, and that's a huge financial impact, actually. That's a lot of knowledge. That's people who've been in business for a long time, who've got a huge amount of knowledge that is then lost because why? Because they're menopausal, because they're not receiving the assistance or the I don't know what can we do to stop women leaving the workplace because of perimenopause and menopause?
Have the discussions. Make it acceptable to have the discussions. Educate your staff on just how severe some of those symptoms can be. And stop it being either a taboo subject or one that is considered a bit of a joke. And then put those steps in place. And they can be really, really simple things. Like giving a woman in menopause that is struggling with hot flushes, and we know that hot flushes and the effects of them can be one of the most debilitating symptoms in the workplace, because people are massively embarrassed about the fact that they're having a hot flush. They can't talk about it. And then they're possibly getting very sweaty, feeling incredibly uncomfortable, and just feeling as if...
And self-conscious.
Yeah, right? Incredibly self-conscious, like everyone's noticing because it's so overpowering to them. Yeah. But providing that member of staff with a desk fan or letting them sit by a window that opens can make a world of difference. And actually just in knowing that those conversations are allowable and that you won't be viewed negatively as a woman in menopause can go a long way to improving a woman's confidence and feeling that she's still valued. Yeah. So things like, as I say, like desk fans, allowing a woman potentially to shift her working hours. So if you know that this individual is struggling with her sleep, letting her work have a later start and later finish, or allowing her to work from home if possible. For those days, a woman in perimeno might have horrendously heavy periods. So for those days where she's possibly flooding, allow her to work from home. That's easy. Not looking askance at regular toilet breaks, making sure that she's got access to cold water, again, going back to the hot flushes. But just knowing that your colleagues are educated and that your condition fits within the overall occupational health policy is can be a real game changer for a lot of women.
So it sounds like your chats with the corporate world are like, is quite practical advice that you're giving.
Well, that in truth, that is quite a relatively recent add-on. What I have been doing more up until very recently is it's that piece around culturally, why don't we talk about it? Where have we been in terms of those cultural representations of women in their 50s? And, we're looking at the battle axe, the crone, the nag, etc., etc. So nobody wants to be that demographic.
Oh my goodness,
yeah. Nobody wants to put their hand up to that. So again, that's another thing that has caused women to stay very quiet.
Yeah.
Because it's a joke to be a woman in menopause, or at least has been. So I start looking at that, and then I go into the physiology of exactly what's happening in the body in terms of hormones, where you've been through a relatively predictable cycle into what is anything but when you go into perimeno, and then what's happening when you come out the other side.
Right.
What the range of the symptoms can be, how debilitating they can be. Most of us are on a spectrum. Some of us sail through it. Others, it's horrendous. And utterly life-changing. So understanding where we might sit.
So a lot of that conversation in the workplace is about just understanding what menopause is. And starting to grow some level of sympathetic thought.
And
just
some
some
empathy.
And
that it does, of course, it affects 51% of the population. Like you say, it's not something that happens to just 1 in 100 people.
I know, but that's how much time and energy it often gets, isn't it? It's like a rarity. One thing I'm really interested in is when you go into a workplace, does everyone attend, or is it an optional thing? And then obviously, it's not obvious, but my question is leading to, do you speak to as many men about menopause as you do women?
No.
Is that because the workplace asks you just to speak to the women, or do the men not come for the conversation because they feel like it doesn't affect them, or what happens? What are your ratios like in your conversation, and why? Do you know?
I'm definitely seeing a shift. When I first started doing this work, and I'm genuinely talking about a time when the suggestion of it in the workplace would be greeted with, You're not doing a lunch and none on that, are you?
Oh, right, okay. All right. So excited. Yeah.
To now it being, oh yes, we definitely need to cover menopause. And up until very recently, it was always just women. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the women preferred it that way because they wanted that more private space to be able to ask the questions.
Sure, yeah.
But I am seeing, which I think is a good thing, I am seeing a lot more men coming along and a lot more variety in the ages coming along. And I do encourage that because we know, all the evidence tells us that the more we know in advance as women, the better our experience is going to be. If we're going into it forewarned and forearmed, and if particularly if we get our ducks in a row health-wise in the run-up to it, then your chances are so much better for actually finding this quite manageable overall.
So it sounds like we need we all need 2 sessions. You need that safe space with women to be able to ask the questions that you need to ask and to listen about the subject and to be able to speak in a way that in a safe zone, but also actually the entire workplace kind of needs to listen up as well, because if 51% of people are going to experience this, there isn't really anyone that can say menopause doesn't affect me. Because there's no way that either you don't have a wife or a mum or daughters or a work colleague or somebody that you regularly interact with.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're living in a monastery.
Yeah, exactly.
It's in your life. Yeah.
So you were just saying there about having all your ducks in a row, and it made me think, what what does that look like? What can women do to put their ducks in a row? Like, so I'm 37, and I as far as I'm aware, I'm not perimenopausal, but it's not unlikely that I would start to have some sort of symptoms in the next 5 years, right? Statistically. So for me, what could I do to put all my ducks in a row to give me not an optimum experience, because I feel like nobody knows how you're going to sail through it, right? And you can't be judgmental and say, oh, well, that's because you didn't employ X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But what can I do to give me the foundations that I need to have my best possible experience at going through perimenopause and menopause?
Well, in my one-to-one work, it is all very much about looking at that woman's individual environment.
Okay.
So everyone is different. There are some commonalities though, and I think there are some factors that really do apply to all of us, almost despite our best efforts. Kira, I have written an ebook which is a free resource, which is it's for everyone. But first and foremost, for any woman in menopause, it's you have to manage your stress. There are no two ways about it. And I know it's very, very easy to say, and most women will roll their eyes at that statement. Because, you come and live my life.
So much to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, of course. But we know that the stress response hijacks.
Of course, the raised cortisol levels.
And the down-regulation of all those other systems in the body, and the association with the chronic stress that most of us are living with, the association of that with greater incidence of hot flushes, greater levels of anxiety, gastrointestinal issues.
Yeah.
And these, to be honest, this could affect anyone. We're not just talking about women in menopause. But when you add into the overall picture that massive shift in your hormone levels, effectively you're going through puberty in reverse. And we all remember how disruptive and discombobulating puberty was.
Yeah. Do a whole show on that as well.
Yeah, but then on top of what, your pubescent experience, you have decades of wear and tear. You have likelihood is you've got a great deal more responsibility. So you're adding all that into the overall picture. So we really do need to look at self-care. And it can be things as simple as doing some breath work. And I talk about this all the time. But if we can just slow down our breathing and have that longer exhalation than inhalation, then we know that takes us out of fight or flight and puts us into rest and repair, which is where we want to be and which is where we should be the vast majority of the time.
So for someone who's never done that before, who's never looked at their breath work, does that mean going to yoga? Does that mean doing some meditation or mindfulness? Like what does that look like?
It could do. And yoga, mindfulness, meditation, these are all fantastic tools. Brilliant tools. If you are someone that spends time at the gym and has been very cardio focused, it makes an enormous amount of sense for your both physical and your mental well-being to incorporate some kind of more passive work into it, something that is going to be much more relaxing. But you don't have to go to a class to do it. Okay. You can just go through an exercise where you count the number of you count up to say 5 on your inhalation, and then you count out to 7 on your exhalation.
So this is something that you could do at various points in the day?
Exactly, yeah.
Like a positive version of going for a cigarette because you're stressed out. You can go and do some breathing work, right?
100%.
And it's free, and it's probably a lot less damaging,
Undoubtedly a lot less damaging. Yes, it's a positive version of the cigarette break. That's a brilliant way of thinking about it. An awful lot of us arrive in our cars at work in the morning stressed out because there was some idiot that doesn't know how to use a roundabout on the way into work. And we arrive with, gripping the steering wheel. Before we get out of the car, do some breath work. Start the day with that positive intention. If you've had a stressful episode at work, you might have argued with somebody, or you've just got far too much in your in tray, or another of those email arrives, whatever it is, take 2 minutes. Do some breath work. Before you eat, super important to be in rest or repair before you're about to eat. Most of us eat on the run.
Yeah.
We're talking 2 minutes just to calm down. We've all got 2 minutes.
I feel like that 2 minutes of breathing might also stop you from diving headfirst into the biscuit tin.
So true.
Yeah, with the stress, and you're like, I can't take this anymore. I need to eat 5 broken digestives out of the shared work biscuit tin, which you know that at home you would never do. But you somehow fall into these habits, especially when you're at work, because you're stressed and there's so much going on.
It's just, negative coping strategies.
Right, okay. So I do know that you've written an ebook because I asked you to give me a leaflet so that patients of mine that come to see me could access this ebook, which is awesome. And I've been able to hand out information so that people can go on and look at it. And it's brilliant because it's a free piece of work, so it's there for everyone. What's in the ebook, and how do people get it?
Okay, what's in the ebook is 6 steps. So 6 things to do pretty much for everybody to actually get to grips with your symptoms and lessen the impact of them. So number 1 is go see your GP, or your practice nurse.
Thank you.
Because there are certain symptoms that we might be experiencing that can be linked to vitamin deficiencies.
Yeah.
So we go along and we get our iron levels checked, our B12 checked, our folate checked. Particularly if we are tired all the time, then it makes sense to get these levels checked, because if we've got easy fixes, let's have them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's a good point actually, because there's a lot of very tired women.
Yeah.
I think we're all tired, and sometimes secretly I hope it's the vitamin B12 deficiency, because then I can fix it, and that would be so great. And it's not just that I'm woken up many times a night by a 3-year-old. But it's a really good point. Like, if you are really exhausted and you've not had those checks done, if there's a chance that you do, your vitamin B12 can have a massive impact on your levels of energy and feeling exhausted, and your mental health. And it's such an easy fix.
Same with folate. An awful lot of us don't get enough of folate in our diet.
Yeah.
And again, that is going to have a negative effect upon our energy levels. If you've had very heavy periods throughout perimenopause, then makes absolute sense to take a look at your iron levels.
Yeah, of course.
So that's the first one. And also, at that time, potentially have the conversation about hormone therapy.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you think, actually, that's not for me, or I'm curious, or yes, I definitely want that. I think every woman should have access to that, a sensible conversation.
Yeah, well, the whole point is, I'm very much like, get your HRT, but really the what it needs to be is get your information and have the opportunity to make an informed choice about what's best for you.
Absolutely.
And take it or leave it, but do that because that's the choice that you've made.
Yeah.
Rather than you never had access to it in the first place, or somebody gave you misinformation one way or the other, right? So there's many ways to come to look at problems, and you can take multiple approaches or take the one that fits you best.
Absolutely. I am absolutely, very often people, because I'm a nutritionist, people expect me to be anti-medications. Of course, absolutely, I am not. It's all about, as you say, best outcomes for the individual. And HRT can be a fantastically useful tool. And as women, we should have access to all these tools.
Mm-hmm.
It's not suitable for everybody, and it's not. And this is a message I do try to get out. It's not a future health insurance policy. And it's not necessarily going to resolve all of your symptoms. So whether you're taking it or not, checking your iron levels, managing your stress levels, moving your body. These are all things that are going to improve your long-term health outcomes. And that's what I'm all about. It's not just for today or for tomorrow. It's positioning you so you have all the tools you need to actually age really, really well, because we age really badly in the West.
Yeah,
we don't need to. We really don't need to. We have all the tools at our disposal to actually have really happy, healthy, long lives.
Yeah.
So it's then movement. We've all got to shift our bums.
Yeah.
Most of us are far too sedentary. And then it's looking at actually, again, something that as women we're really bad at is being just that bit selfish.
Okay.
And making time for yourself. And again, then this will have really positive repercussions for your mental health.
Okay.
And just your identity, because that's another thing that can get lost in menopause. Women just wondering, who the hell am I anymore?
So actually, it sounds a bit like your ebook is not just for those who are struggling with menopause, but those who are just, well, it kind of sounds like it's a good idea for everyone in many ways.
It totally is.
But it's, for someone who feels like they're doing pretty okay through menopause, it's still an active tool to kind of level up your wellness.
100%. And of course food is in there. Of course it is. We should all be eating more real food, for want of an expression. Food that actually is recognisably from a farmer, rather than stuff that comes in boxes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I'd love to do a whole show on that as well. Like, I'm a huge, well, I don't know if believe is the right word, but food is such an important part of who we are, because that's what's going in. That's what you're going to get back.
Yeah, absolutely. Our bodies don't work in isolation. They're amazing, amazing structures. We are all astonishing beings.
Yeah.
But we need to give our bodies the raw materials to do what they need to do. I've already mentioned folate. Most of us are deficient in that in our diet. Magnesium is another one.
Yeah.
Massively important as a mineral, responsible for hundreds of different reactions in the body. The menopausal woman's friend.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it has this wonderful calming quality. Most of us don't get enough magnesium in our diet.
So this is a perfect reason to make some time for yourself and run that hot bath. Pour in those magnesium salts.
100%.
And then sit back with a decent, happy magazine.
Yeah, have that lovely music on in the background, light the candle, chill out.
Yeah.
And you're ticking so many boxes.
See, what happens for me is these little toddler fingers appear at the side of the bath, and then clothes fly off everywhere, and then they jump. But do you know what the joy of that is? Those magnesium salts are pretty good for the 3-year-old too. So
well, hopefully they'll calm her down.
Get a night's sleep for it. So that's good. So where can we get your ebook? That's what we want to know.
You can get it through my website. So find Life Lessons Nutrition. And it is there. Thriving in Menopause is the ebook. So it's there. Life Lessons Nutrition under the resources tab. And please, everybody should download it, male or female, because it really does go across the board.
So even if you're 30 and you feel like menopause is someone else's problem, because it's funny when you're younger, isn't it? Everything feels like it's so far away.
But absolutely. Even if you're younger, what's that got to do with my life?
Yeah. It'll happen and it'll come quicker than you think. Even if you're younger, it's still worth looking at and having a read and just gaining what you can from it.
Definitely. Well, if you are a woman that struggles through your menstrual cycle every month, for whatever reason your cycle is irregular, it's very heavy, comes with lots of different symptoms, effectively, if you're struggling with PMS, these tools are going to help you in that as well.
Awesome. I really love the name of it, Thriving in Menopause. Like, it's so easy to think it's going to be surviving menopause, and actually it doesn't have to be that, does it? It doesn't have to be dragging yourself through treacle to try to keep going. We can have a great time. I want to add in here that I learnt recently that there's only one other animal that has menopause, right? And you probably know this already, but it's whales, yeah? And the matriarchal whales are so revered that having a period of their life where they're not procreating is important for the whole family, because they're able to give their knowledge and their time and their energy to their entire family, right? So these really important figures have this menopausal time without being baby making machines, so that they can share all this important knowledge. And it really stuck with me, because I think when we go through the menopause, a lot of us feel a little bit, I've heard terms like washed up, and like you said, some of the phrases that people attach to menopausal women, it doesn't feel, often for many of us, it doesn't feel great,
There is that element in our culture of that redundancy, because if you're not able to procreate, then what's the point of you?
Yeah, but imagine if we celebrated that, and actually these are the knowledge holders, and I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that this part of our life is a beautiful part of our life, because we've learned so much, we've given so much, and we're not spending it with crippling joint pain and incontinence and urine infections and general misery, and we're actually having that opportunity to give that time to ourselves as well, and say no a little bit and nourish our bodies and nourish our souls, and kind of retire from baby making whilst really enjoying the rest of our life,
Oh, there's lots and lots of surveys that tell us that the happiest women are those in their 50s.
Right.
Yeah. There's lots of evidence. The happiest women are single, child-free.
Oh no.
The happiest, healthiest women, and healthiest as well, are single and child-free. The healthiest men are married.
Right.
So what does that tell you?
Yeah, women are where it's at.
Women are where it's at.
Thank you so much, Jo, for talking to me and coming and sitting in this rather cold and damp little cave with me for a chat. I would love to do this again, and I feel like there's so much to talk about. You could do an entire series on this subject. I'm going to ask you for 3 small takeaways. Somebody's listening to the show, they feel like kind of lost in their own exhaustion and their symptoms and their feelings, and actually going off and finding the ebook and printing it out and then reading it feels like too many tasks already. What maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, what little steps could they take this week to get them to a space where going and finding the ebook and printing it off and having a read isn't too overwhelming?
Go and make that doctor or nurse appointment.
Okay.
If you are just knackered all the time, go and make that doctor's appointment.
Okay.
Let's get those easy wins. Do your breath work. Stop and breathe. And the benefits, I promise you, will amaze you. How different it will make you feel.
I can see you searching
I'm
your
trying
brain.
to, well, I'm kind of mulling over 2, just like, right, okay, which is going to be the third, which is going to be the third. And I should say, and again, most of us don't, but I should say, eat some more greens.
Eat some more greens.
But in terms of immediate wins and immediately feeling better, get outside, go for a walk.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, get outside. We are so fortunate here on the island to have so many beautiful green spaces and beaches. Get outside and make that time for yourself. Go. And
it doesn't have to be a power walk, does it? You're exhausted.
Go for a little bimble.
Yeah, and your joints are hurting, and you think, are you having a laugh? I'm not going for a walk. It hurts getting up and down out of this chair. But actually, I've struggled before with having the motivation to go out and exercise. And what I remind myself is, I have never in my life gone for a walk and then regretted it afterwards. You're always like, I'm so glad I did that. Yeah. And that doesn't have to be a 10-mile hill climb.
I say, and I'm not even talking about it necessarily being as exercise in inverted commas. It's just moving your body, getting that fresh air, looking at the trees, and the rocks on the beach and the sky, and I'm going into the woo space now, but just being at one with the world and getting out of your own head.
Yeah.
And the benefits just in terms of your mental health and actually moving your body if you've got sore joints is the one thing you need to do.
Yeah.
So
if you're really struggling to get moving, even if you could just walk across Laxey Prom and reward yourself with a cup of tea at the shed when you get to the other end, which is such a nice spot to sit and think, go me, I got out and I took that time.
Even if you
myself.
do nothing for the rest of the day, you know, I went for a walk. My day has not been wasted.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Jo, for coming and talking to me, and keep doing all the amazing stuff that you're doing just to have that conversation and make that noise. And if you're someone who's in a workplace that Jo is visiting and she's doing a seminar, go to it, and especially go to it if you think this is not relevant to me. Then even more so, you need to go to it and listen up. Thank you.